Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we are going to work on some safety measures for the Supra. And this is the big one that I wanted to implement before the car is ready to be tuned, ready to go on the dyno, is that's kind of what I'm working towards at this point in time. So what we have is a 10-pound Stroud safety fire suppression system. And I opted for theirs with the 3M Novec fluid as between the two options when I was browsing between them. This is the one that had more reviews, which to me said that more people were using this one or had experience with it, so that's what I went with. So this is a pretty comprehensive kit. We have a bottle bracket, we have the bottle with the fire extinguisher itself, tubing, pull cord, instructions and stickers, very important. And we also have all of the fittings and associated hardware. So all this stuff together will create a fire suppression system, and in the event that the car catches on fire, I can rip that cable out and at least buy myself a few seconds to get out of the car so I don't become a barbecued person. So what we first need to do with this setup is to get the bottle mounted, as this is kind of the heart of the system, and where it's located dictates how all these other things are implemented into the system. So as far as Stroud's instructions are concerned, in terms of mounting the bottle I should say, these are all the examples they give. They say don't mount it running parallel with the center line of the vehicle, as that can screw up the siphon tube. We don't run it parallel with the vehicle with the neck facing forward, as that can have issues with the siphon tube. Running it parallel to the center line with the neck backwards is acceptable. Running it semi-vertically like this is acceptable. Mounting it upside down is unacceptable, but they say the best mounting position is the bottle mounted low and parallel to the ground and perpendicular to the chassis axis. So that's what we're going to do, as I have a pretty perfect location that I can make that work with, and that's where this piece of plate steel comes in. Well, the fire suppression tank is now all mounted, and I also put the valve head on it as well. So one thing I did change is the routing of the T-bolt clamps. If you guys noticed, I routed them around the whole bracket as they're supposed to be, and now the tank is much more solid. So I feel a little bit better about that. So the next thing that I need to do is figure out where my pull handle is going to be located. And it's going to be somewhere on this funny car cage. I'm not quite sure exactly where just yet, but somewhere along here, and I'm going to try to do so, or try to put it in a location that if I get jostled around, if I mount it on the inside and my helmet comes over and hits it, I could possibly compromise the cable, and if I need to pull it to put out a fire or something along those lines and the cable's messed up, then I think you guys can see where I'm going with that. But I think if I mount it on the outside of the funny car cage, somewhere, I don't know, in this area, I mean, I pretty much have this entire tube of real estate where I can put things, then I think that will be a pretty good option for ease of access, because all I have to do is reach up, grab with my hand, and yank forward, and then get the hell out of here. Well, all of the fabrication work, aside from the tube fab, is finished for this fire suppression install. So the tank sits exactly where I wanted it to. I have a good inlet, or I have two good outlets for the actual fire suppression liquid to make its way out of the valve on the neck if it needs to. And the pull handle is in a nice ergonomic location that should be out of the way for the passenger. Is not in a position where I'll hit it with my head if I go for a ride in this thing, and it's very easy to reach up and pull and turn myself into Frosty the Snowman being covered in all of this fire suppression liquid. So pretty good day here, and tomorrow I can come in and start on the actual tube fabrication. Well, I started today by going ahead and finishing up the cable install for the fire suppression system. So it's pretty easy. The cable I trimmed to length. I ran it down through the valve head here, trimmed the sheath, trimmed the cable itself, verified function, verified that everything moves seamlessly, moves smoothly, and then I tightened down everything here. There's one set screw that goes on the top side to hold the sheath in place, and then there's this set screw on this side that prevents the top of it from rotating any longer. So that's all squared away, and now it's time to start doing the actual plumbing for this. So my line straightening tool arrived, and I'm set up over here on the bench with my handy tube flaring tool, the line, tube bender, tube cutter, and then the tube straightening tool. So this is just a series of rollers that you slide this tool over top of the line, and as it rolls through, it straightens everything out pretty much arrow straight, as you can see right here. So I'm all ready to go. I just need to figure out exactly how I'm going to run these tubes. So let me take a look at this for a few minutes, figure out a game plan, and then we can actually start implementing said game plan into the fire suppression system, the actual plumbing for it. So, with the steel line that came with this kit, there was not enough of it, and that was going to be a problem, as I used about half of it to make this line right here that is not long enough, and I'm not happy with the bends. So, I just got back from the parts store, and we have, rather than, it was like 12.5 feet of the steel tube right here, and now have 50 feet of nickel copper. So if you guys have worked with this stuff before, it is wonderful. It's very malleable, very easy to work with, and does not rust, does not tarnish. This is the better option as opposed to the steel tubing that came with this setup. So I can use the line that I had began crafting as kind of a template and build off of that out of nickel copper, and everything should be much better this go around. Well, that side was pretty miserable, but it looks much better than it did when it was made out of the steel line, and I'm pretty happy with what we have going on here. So it 180s down, 90s over, and 90s towards the front. There's a little bit of a kick down angle, like an S bend here, loops around. We end up right there with the nozzle, so that will hose my feet down and hopefully hose me down if there is a fire afoot as I'm operating this thing. Hopefully I never have to use this system, but it's better to be proactive rather than reactive for any safety measures. A couple days of work in the books, and the Supra now has a fire suppression system. So this install was not that bad, all things considered. Probably the most difficult part was bending and fabricating the lines, and that's the way that it typically goes when you're working with hard lines, especially long runs. But everything came out pretty nicely, and I'm pretty happy with the way that everything packages. Back here with the bottle itself, the top side, or the top outlet, loops down around and goes to the driver's side. That nozzle comes out right near my feet, as you guys saw a little bit earlier. The bottom line, that goes around the passenger side, up and through the firewall, and that is what sprays the engine side of the system. So it's a two-zone system essentially, and that way it protects me, and it gets the fire suppression liquid all over the hot stuff and the flammable stuff in the passenger side of the engine bay. this line right here will end up getting fastened to the strut tower. I just couldn't get in there right now with the surge tank located where it is to put a couple of clamps there, but this will be coming out to get painted and to have some thermal management done to it in the very near future. And at that point in time, I will have the real estate to get in here and fasten this line. So engine bay side, there's one outlet for this nozzle, or for the fire suppression system right here, that is directed right at the surge tank. And the other one is right here, if you guys can see the shadow of it, and that sprays kind of over towards the turbine housing and the header in that area. So the efforts of the fire suppression system are focused around the hot and or flammable things, and I think that's a pretty good way to do it, and that's what made sense in my mind. So left to do before dyno time, we need some thermal management, we need a little bit of wiring, and we need to address the oil leak. So those aren't things that'll happen in this episode, obviously, but in the very near future, that'll be the focus of the couple next upcoming videos. But without droning on incessantly, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in, for coming along on this crazy, wild ride with me, and sticking around for all the boring and nerdy stuff. And the payoff will be big, and it's coming soon. I promise you guys that. So before I drone on forever, that'll be the end of this one. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.